Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Let's Do Lunch. We have a great show today, which I'll introduce shortly. Before I do that, though, let me welcome everybody and ask you to introduce yourselves in the chat. As you can see, Digital Media Wire just made a post about how to do that. You should select all panelists and attendees when you make your posts in the chat so that everybody can see them and they don't just go to the panelists. Also, if you have questions for the panel today, please put them in the Q&A area, which is just to the left of the chat so that it's easier for our moderator to get to your questions today. Today is Thursday, so it is our Rights Tech roundtable. We do this every Thursday. I think, as folks know, Mondays are the business of streaming. Tuesdays are the future of entertainment. Wednesdays are the game business, the business of games. Thursdays, the Rights Tech Roundtable, and then Fridays, we do the business of music. And as always, we have our host and my good friend, Paul Sweeting, who is CEO of Concurrent Media and head of the Rights Tech Project. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ned. Good to see you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Winter has returned here on the east coast of the U.S., but I hope the rest of you are staying warm and cozy. We do have what I think will be a very interesting show for you today. Before we get to that, a couple of headlines of note. Earlier this week, as many of you probably know, the UK government, the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Committee of the UK Parliament, has been conducting a inquiry, fact-finding into the economics of music streaming, and they are scheduled to submit a report on their findings to the government shortly. If you followed any of it, you know there has been some interesting testimony collected, both the written testimony and the oral testimony that the committee took, but it hasn't generated a lot of headlines, at least outside of the UK. It hasn't had a lot of star power associated with it, I suspect, to the disappointment of some of the parliamentarians involved in the inquiry. But just this week, it had a significant boost to its star power when a collection of about 150 musicians, including some very big names, Sir Paul McCartney, the folks from Led Zeppelin, Roger Daltrey, Sting, Stevie Nicks, Chris Martin of Coldplay, and a bunch of others, sent a letter to Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, and his government. It's insisting that the government extend what they call equitable remuneration to musicians for play on digital streaming platforms. Basically, they want equity between broadcast radio, where artists are paid for use of their work. They want to extend that to the digital platforms, which is something that exists here in the U.S., although in the opposite way. There is no, while songwriters get paid for radio play, performing artists, recording artists do not, but recording artists do get performance royalties from play on digital streaming services. So it'll be interesting to see if that heightened star power has any impact on the outcome of that study. Another interesting element in the letter that the artists sent was a call for an immediate referral to the competition authorities in England as what it called a first step towards addressing the extraordinary power that certain multinational corporations have and wield to the detriment of songwriters, an obvious reference to the major music labels and publishers. So that's another interesting new wrinkle, and it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. Closer to home here in the U.S., the Mechanical Licensing Collective reported its first payouts for January. As most of you know, it started January 1st, and its first monthly payout amounted to artists amounted to $24 million out of roughly $40 million that was collected. As you also probably know, the Mechanical Licensing Collective is, in addition to collecting and paying royalties to mechanical royalties to artists for digital streaming play, it's also charged in the statute that created it with bringing some order to certain parts of the music metadata ecosystem, specifically the matching of ISRCs and ISWCs. And that brings us to the topic of today's discussion. And I'd like to invite our guest, Teri Nelson Carpenter, to join us, if she is there. There is Teri. Teri is the president and CEO of Real Muzik Werks, which is a full-service music rights management company specializing in global writer, publisher administration, licensing and clearance, music supervision for all media. Their services include management of performance, mechanical, neighboring, and secondary rights. Before Real Muzik, she was also the executive in charge of network television music at Fox Family Networks, Saban Entertainment, and prior to that, she was at MGM. Of particular relevance to today's conversation, she is also the publisher lead within a working group of CISAC's Publisher Society Forum that has created and is seeking to establish a universal template for cue sheets for the reporting of the use of music within audiovisual works. And Teri joins us today from Nashville, Tennessee, the new where she is setting up Real's new office. For those of you who remember what an office is, welcome, Teri. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. And it's our launch for our Nashville office is on May 25th. So we're firmly in Los Angeles. And
so where are you down like around Music Row or?
Actually, I'm in the new Music Row because some people call that Medical Row. I wouldn't, but we are up in Berry Hill. And so my neighbors are Blackbird and Westlight Pro and East Irish Studios and a ton of really great producers that have called Berry Hill their home. So this is going to be where we have our creative hub.
I used to spend a fair amount of time in Nashville when I was working for Billboard, but I haven't been there in a while. I probably wouldn't recognize the place, I'm told. From
oh, it's great. It's Berry Hill is kind of has the feel of what Music Row used to feel, and still does to a certain extent. But you know, with Vanderbilt and Belmont encroaching on that area and growing so much, you know, there's a nice community here in Berry Hill that is really creative, and I really love it. So we're looking forward to extending, you know, our reach. And also, you should know that I am the current president of the LA chapter of the Association of Independent Music Publishers. And I was the first national chair. And now John Ozier from our Nashville board is the new national chair. So we are very active in this Society Publisher Forum, which is a collaboration between CISAC, ICMP, and supported by AIMP and the IMPF. And I am going to write a rap song utilizing all of those
acronyms.
I'm telling you, I'm putting it out there now. Anybody who wants to help me co-write this song, and I will perform. I will perform. I have a degree in music.
Okay,
so
everybody, get your beats ready.
Let's go.
We have a hit on our hands, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You just have to know what they all mean, right? That's the whole idea.
So cue sheets. Cue sheets have been around for a long time in one form or another. almost since the beginning of talking pictures, where, it became possible to incorporate music into a movie as well as talking, of course. But they've had to evolve and adapt over time as new types of audiovisual works were created, television, TV ads. And these days there are, music is appearing in ever more AV contexts on ever more platforms, all with sort of different needs to report on things. So do you have like a good working definition of what a cue sheet is?
Well, a cue sheet is the chronological listing of music within an audiovisual program. It enables the producer to deliver the content of music on this legal document. It's very important for them when they license their content out and when they're selling their content. This is a legal document, but also on the music side, it is the document that the societies use to collect from the users of music, and that would be the broadcasters, wherever music is performed, so that they can accurately pay the creators. So that's what a cue sheet is, a legal document. And it's also a critical, document that for music really contains all the necessary information. So that's a music cue sheet.
And so it touches a lot of different parts of
Yes.
the media world, from the audiovisual world of broadcast television, movies, etc., to obviously the music rights owners and creators, the various intermediaries, the collecting societies, and so forth. It touches a lot of different parts.
It does, but one of the things that's very important to note that this new Cue Sheet Harmonization project, this new tool or sample, if you will, it'll become a template when it becomes automated. Right now it's in an Excel format, so it is something that we at the Society Publisher Forum,
before we get to that,
okay, sure.
Before we get to that, but I think some people would be surprised. I know I was, that a document that has legal significance, that there aren't already sort of a standard format and standard terminology to include in it. How?
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. You said that Cue Sheet started when there was talking movies and music could be in there. Silent films were wall-to-wall music, and they did have Cue Sheets. So it's really important to note that, Cue Sheets have been around for a long time, and our way of identifying copyrights within those Cue Sheets has evolved as well. So to have a standard format, what makes America unique and Germany unique and France unique? I mean, we all do things differently. So what is happening now in our music industry, and with the support of CISAC through our Society Publisher Forum, we are working toward harmonization of our information globally so that it's easier for us to get paid. It's easier for us to make, changes and amendments if we see something is incorrect. And it's easy for us to have a discussion no matter where you are in the world. When we say visual vocal, we mean the same thing. And it is possible, even though some societies have some type of payment schemes that are a little bit different from another society, the terminology can still be used and be the same. And one of the things that you should know in the Society Publisher Forum is when I talked about trying to harmonize processes, we already have the Common Works registration, which allows us to batch file registration to the societies. Right. And that is a specific format with specific information that all people adhere to. Secondly, we have the common royalty distribution that we are working on as well, along with the common agreement format. So it's a precursor to your registering your works, that the societies will know that certain information will be made available so they can make note of it as you get your agreement numbers from them, you can start filing your registrations and you can start filing your cue sheets. We have found that cue sheets have been systematically done by so many different people, composers, music editors, junior production workers, the producers themselves. And actually, they have to come from the legal source, which is the producer. Even though a composer may create it, a producer is the one that gives it the approval that it is true and correct. And the same with an editor or any, underlying, production person, if you will. Not trying to put down production assistants. They're awesome. We need them. But, this will help standardize the process so that everybody is speaking the same language.
So where did the impetus for this project come from, primarily?
How horrible it was to be able to tie the music on a cue sheet to the music that is registered, or maybe music isn't registered and the only information you're going off of is a cue sheet, and a cue sheet that isn't necessarily complete. Because if you don't have an understanding of what you're doing, you could leave music out. This is a way you verify that, yes, I licensed my music, or I created music for that particular AV content, and that is a confirmed piece. Whenever I do a composer deal or I do a license, a cue sheet is a deliverable to that creative person. So my composers get a copy of that cue sheet. I get a copy for all the music I license, or if I'm working on behalf of a production, that we make sure those whose music we license, they get a copy.
So let's take a look at what
Yes.
you've come up with so far. There's kind of two parts to it. One is standardizing terminology, essentially.
Correct.
Definition of terms. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Whoop.
And Todd Brabeck, I love your comment. I don't think we have enough room on a cue sheet to put a whole movie in, but I do love it.
Let's see now. Can everybody see see what I'm sharing? Can you see it, Teri?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So what we tried to do is to be able to come together. You should know that there were publishers and society members from all over the world that participated in this working group, and literally took 2.5 years for this to get completed because of all the differences in how we approach a cue sheet. So, and this is what the collective body had approved. And it just talks about the different terminology, again, very instructive for people to use so that they understand what it is they're working with.
It's sort of remarkable, isn't it, how, terminology that we just, throw around and use amongst ourselves, when it comes down to actually writing down what you're referring to, there are often more differences than similarities. I mean, it's
Exactly.
People still argue over what a featured artist is, who a featured artist is.
Exactly. One thing I'm going to point out here is you are not going to see a cue sheet that would be useful for works in a commercial. We have a separate working group at CISAC, at the Society Publisher Forum, that is working on a cue sheet or a depository for music in commercials. And it asks for such different information, and usually there's not as much music involved. And so we are looking at providing that actually in a very, very, in the very near future. So there is going to be a separate form, i.e. cue sheet, for music and commercials. So when looking at this, think about film and television and, small, short productions, in that view. Gaming.
So is there anything here that you wanted to call out in particular?
I think one of the things is the right type, you know, with respect to understanding what the cue sheets do. These cue sheets are primarily for the performing rights, but there is a secondary performing right that happens in much of the world, not inside the US, because that right is not something that we legally carry. It's called the broadcast mechanical. And so that broadcast mechanical, which is something that actually is missing here, which I think would be very interesting to add. It is a performing right, and it stems from when we used to have to make a mechanical reproduction of a work and run it over to the next station for it to be broadcasted. Therefore, an electronic copy, mechanical reproduction was made. The same happens even digitally. So that is a performance right. And see, we're perfecting our system even as we talk, that's something that should be in there. But you know, we're laying that out, and that's something I just wanted to point out. And these are definitely terms so that people are understanding the type of music we're working with. The next is really important. There's one line in there that says condition, and it says, you know, it has different connotation of what's mandatory and optional, and
so what are these? So M equals mandatory?
It has, if you go down, I was trying to, the key for all of this hopefully will be at the bottom, so you can see. Oh, well, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see if it code value, keep on going, because it's mandatory, optional, and that's not closing theme. Okay. Oh, specifically commissioned.
I see. Okay.
I believe that's what that was. Code. Okay. If you go back up, sorry about that. I thought it would just show it very easily there, but it doesn't. Anyway, so in looking at this type of information, we have a template which is in an Excel format, and each one of these field names or each one of these fields are present in the Cue Sheet template. And what it does is it describes what is you know, if it's a numerical or, you know, alphanumeric, whatever type of value it is, the condition, mandatory, optional, and then the description of what it is, title of an episode, you know, number assigned, alternative titles. We have two challenges with respect to this Cue Sheet, which we are working on right now. And the first one is rolled up cues. That is being discussed, and how we approach that is still under discussion.
Define for people who may not know that term, what rolled up cues are.
What rolled up cues are is in a production where you have the same composer and the same publisher, and it's background cues and not another type of performance. They will roll up those cues and give it a complete number according to the time value of the aggregated cues, and you can have that included on a cue sheet, or actually the society themselves are doing that internally. It's not very popular with the societies, but you know, my team and I are feel very strongly that each individual cue needs to be registered, even if the cue sheet shows a rolled up cue, because that music may be different, of those cues may be used, and the timing is different in other types of advertisement, or any type of recap or teaser or in and out for the program. We want to make sure that everything gets registered as an individual title, and then we also register the cue sheet so that our independent registrations will attach directly to the cue sheet, and it will get paid, linked to a performance and then paid.
So let's take a look at
Yeah, look at the template, and then some of this will make much greater sense.
So can people see that? Do you see the template, Terry?
I do not. All I see is the
Oh,
terminology right at the moment.
oh, hold on. Hold on. Oh, okay. Do you see it
There we
now?
go. Yes. So you can see all of the fields that are present. And you know, what we're trying to reflect here is as much information as possible. And you can see that fields that are marked with an asterisk are mandatory, and those that are highlighted in orange or yellow here contain drop-down lists so that you can acquire that information. But thank you, that makes it so much better. So I think that when you start looking at this, it does include, it's almost, you know, a lot of us who worked in film and television in the beginning, we worked off of editors' logs, and that's how we created our cue sheets, from those editors' logs. And we would just get an in out, and we would have to compile the music duration. There usually isn't an in and out. What we've done is we've given the necessity of all three of those columns to be present, not just duration. And we also provide for the ISWC, the ISRC, and that's also another identifier in addition to the IPI number of the composer and publisher.
Those are
So
not mandatory fields, so it looks like the ISWC.
You know what? They aren't, but here's the thing. We're talking in a perfect world. All of this information allows for the ease of registration, the completeness of information, so that when there is a performance, you will get paid. If you want to give, you know, a certain amount of information and not everything, there could be issues with respect to your being paid. Why not secure your ability to get paid? These are the different information schemes that the societies and publishers have indicated are critical for us to get paid and for registration information to be seamless.
Got it.
So, you know, if you go to the header, it's really important, because what some of the societies said is that in the header information, if they even have that information and the cue sheets on file, they're able to find everything that they need. So they have a better access to searchable information that way. They can just take it and run with it. And for us, you know, we're looking at the entire bit, because we might not have all the music in that show, and we want to see how it is laid out, whatever music we have contributed. But you can see that this is comprehensive, but very, very much important. And one of the other things, the reason why some of this information is important, like country of production, or you know, your first release date, because there are so many different productions with the same title, that this header information is critical to know where it's come from. And we do have areas where you can put an alternative title, an alternative production title up there in the middle under column I. There you see the British Awards, and then you see Brit Awards. We are working on fine-tuning this so that the alternative titles, which are also translated titles, will also be included in this report or tied to these cue sheets. It's something that we also, this is in English, as you can see. We have it being translated into at least 5 different languages currently. So this cue sheet will be available in French in Spanish, in German, in Italian, and I forgot what the fifth one was. So they are working on that now so that it can be read by more people.
Mandarin, maybe?
Yeah, you know, it could, well, you'd have to respect copyright if we're talking about China. Yeah,
True.
that first.
Well,
And
I
a
was being
vehicle.
aspirational.
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, you can't deny that China is becoming a huge, huge market for.
No, China is definitely, and I think the thing is that when their laws support and honor copyright, then us providing our music, registering our music is going to make a big difference. And it is an uphill battle, I think, for anybody who does business in the territory, and we do, and we surely understand it. That goes without saying. But you know, I think what's very important to a publisher about this particular cue sheet is because we're so film and television centric in our company, we take from those cue sheets and create a master catalog list, and we look at globally what the current registrations are to make sure that if a new client or existing client has music registered, that everything is registered. And so that cue sheet, if you look at it, it has all the tools necessary. It has all the identifiers necessary. It is very easy to go and say, okay, these registrations are correct globally, or no, they need to be corrected. Let's go ahead and do that.
So where can people find those documents that we were just looking at?
They can find it on the CISAC.org website.
Okay.
And I think somebody might have put something in our, I'm not sure if that's, hold on one sec.
Laura, can you put that URL in the chat, please? For
Yes, it's CISAC.org.
.org.
Yeah.
So just a reminder to folks that we will be taking questions. If you do have a question for Teri, please put it in the Q&A queue. We'll get to that in a few minutes. I wanted to circle back, Teri, to something you referenced up top before I rudely cut you off, and that is automation. Is this, should we view this, what you've achieved so far, as a step toward digitization of cue sheets so that they could actually travel with the asset that
yes, I mean, that's the ultimate goal. We had a panel last week with CISAC and ICMP, and one of our guests was SoundMouse. And SoundMouse has worked very much in this area, as most people know, and they are working with us in the Society Publisher Forum. They have just joined us so that we can critically talk about how we can digitize this and make it an automated system. That's why I call it a sample instead of really a template, because a template would beg automation. And we have to make sure, publishers, if you want this to go through, you have to make sure to let your societies know that you are supporting this, because everybody has their own interests. And what we're trying to do is have everybody have the same interest in this particular tool.
So how are you going to, is there a roadmap for how you're going to try to encourage adoption of this? I mean,
we're doing part of that roadmap, and that is bringing it out to the public and explaining that we have this tool that's available and that it has been embraced by CISAC and the publishing community at large, and that which means that the societies who pay the royalties, who take your registrations, connect your performances, pay for your performances, are in support of that by and large. They are going to do that. And the publishers that worked on it also say, yes, we want this. But in that discussion, that's why we knew for music and commercials, we had to have something slightly different, because this regular cue sheet does not apply. You will soon see what that tool looks like. And I think it'll be very, very helpful for you going forward if you have music and commercials. This is of concern to everybody. And I think it's very important both for the underlying copyright and the sound recording for any songs that are these shows as well. And these identifiers, the ISWC, the ISRCs, very important in identifying the works correctly. And, you know, if you want to make sure that we are all speaking the same language, use the form, because it's being adopted and it is being rolled out through our publishing contacts. We're marketing and educating through webinars. We are talking to all the societies. CISAC, within all of their working groups internally, are talking to all the societies so that we can get complete buy-in. We had a very, very strong cross section of societies and publishers, both major and independent, on the publisher side.
So the majors are on board with this.
Oh,
major publishers. Absolutely.
And, you know, if you think about it, if you're not speaking different languages and you're speaking one language, you're gonna understand each other a lot better. And this is what we're trying to do here across the board. Again, CWR, common royalty distribution, and the common agreement format as well.
We are coming up on time. We are going to get to questions. Before we do that, Laura, if you could put up the poll, please. Just had a two-question poll. I just wanted to get a sense of, you know, who's out there and how you interact, if at all, with different parts of the Cue Sheet ecosystem. I had one further question. How do you see this working in the context of ACR, of automatic content recognition? Is that
you know, I think we're coming into discussions on that, and it's definitely a recent topic at our working group. And I think right now, you know, I mean, anybody who is retitling, they were playing with fire from the very beginning. And when you're talking about samples within a song, that's a whole different, you know, scheme. So we have started with this particular format. We are working out whatever kinks we have. As I said, translated titles and rolled up cues are still something we're working through. This is also something we are considering. The societies have said that they believe that this will help in the area of audio recognition. They think that this makes it much easier to fully identify via audio recognition. I think there's still some discussion about that because of, yeah, everything's right except, you know,
right.
You know, all the different you know, all the different situations you can come up with. One being, you know, a sampled work, you know, or retitled work, or, you know, and it may be a business reason for that, but still it's an issue. And how we deal with this. This is, you know, it's not blockchain. It is malleable, you know, but I think you're gonna see that you have great clarity.
Maybe we should turn the template into an NFT, and then we could get the blockchain.
There we go. But I wish I could say my company did this. This was all volunteer. Yeah.
Let's go to some audience questions. We have a couple. Patty Jones, how are these contracts enforced to date? What happens if your clients are not paid in accordance with the Cue Sheet?
Well, that's what any publisher would do. If we are not paid according to the Cue Sheet, we prepare a report, given all of the information with respect to what we were paid, what we should have been paid, and ask them for literally handing an invoice. And you can do that when you know what your value is for the amount of music that has been paid. And when you have proof of the Cue Sheet, you even proof of your contract to be able to create or license your music. As long as you help the societies pay you, it's going to go a lot easier. But if you just are a bomb thrower and you call the societies and your email, hey, I didn't get paid, you know, explain yourself, provide them as much backup, and literally, I like to send them an invoice, because I can figure what has been paid, what hasn't been paid, and you know, what the difference is, you know, paid, not paid, voila, difference.
Todd Brabeck. Todd, good to see you here. Are you finding most of the PROs, particularly the major ones, are on board with this process?
Yes, and the society publisher lead with me, I was the publisher lead, is GAMA. And we had PRS actively involved, and SESAM, and SOCAN, and, you know, all of the major societies.
What about ASCAP and BMI here? Are they?
Yes, both of them, both of them. So it's really, Todd, I'll tell you, that's the good news. Is everything perfect yet? No. But because we have different societies that, as you know, is Todd being such a veteran of performing rights at ASCAP, running the writer, publisher, and film division, he really, you know, worked this angle for many years, and he understands that sometimes adoption can be a slow process, but we're working hard to make that not so much so by having this Society Publisher Forum. Both sides are working together for the solution, and we have a shared buy-in.
So what's next for the working group? You mentioned television ads.
Yes, we're working on music and commercials right now, and that is another working group. I am just a member of that working group, but Dee Hale from Sony is the publisher lead, and Tim Carmichael from PRS is the publisher lead, and they are working hard and through the working group of bringing this tool about. So it's going to be sooner than later on this particular tool. And we are working on, I think it's 3.0 CWR, if not 4.0. So they, you know, all of these machinations of these common formats, you know, they're getting tweaked constantly. So it's kind of almost bleeding edge, but not quite, you know. What we are trying to do is just make it as streamlined as possible, and working within the greater group of people looking at metadata. You know, DDEX is fully aware of what we're doing, and we made sure of that, and also trying not to step on one another, but work together. And so this is, we have the common agreement format that is coming. And again, that is going to be, I think, something very, will streamline the registration process even more with respect to our agreements that we have to follow with the societies in order to show that we legally represent the music that we're registering.
Okay, Laura, could you put up the results of the poll, please? Here we go. So I just wanted to know where people were situated within this ecosystem, and we got a fair number of publishers out there and collection societies, so that's not a big surprise since that's who makes up this the working group. Something else had a pretty big audience too. I guess there was either there are people not involved in this at all, or I missed something that I should have included in there. And then I just wanted to get a rating from folks on how the current system is doing, and there's pretty strong consensus that the current system needs improvement. It's nobody, or at least not many, think it's very good or even adequate.
And that's what's so wonderful about this harmonization of a Cue Sheet. Is going to go toward improving that particular score. Also, you know, if we're looking at tracking performances, you know, we as rights owners, those who have music in these audiovisual shows, we need to do our part too. We can try to get as much information from the user of music, from those content creators, but we also globally have to use whatever free sources there are available to us. And also with my company, we have had to purchase broadcast data for our larger clients, because that information is bona fide. It's what the studios use and what the content creators use in their own statistics and analyzation of how a program works. And so, you know, we have to do our best in making sure that we're watching the ball and not pushing it off on just the societies. having harmonization will absolutely help, because it will be pointing towards exactly the same document in the same language with the same information.
Okay. We have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Teri, for a very informative discussion. Thanks, folks, for the questions. If you have any additional questions for Teri that you think of after we're done here, you can send them to me, Paul at concurrentmedia.com, and I will try to get them to Teri.
Thank you.
Any last thoughts?
Can I just say, yeah, I wanted to say one last thing. When we were looking at the format, we were looking at the identifiers, and we had that column that says mandated or mandatory and optional. C is compulsory, meaning, you know, you're not going to be able to identify your show unless you provide that, you know, episode title and those other, you know, C type of indicated fields. So essentially, all fields are really important. The mandatory ones are the bare minimum, and you will have greater success if all of the information is available. So just, and also the CISAC has its new, and when you're on that site, look up the ISWC allocation and resolution service. Very important. This is a brand new tool and an update within their own system. We're talking same day or second day new ISWC numbers, and the resolution going quite quickly. So I just really urge, that's another thing that has been done by CISAC that is good news for us.
Yes, I've been trying to get someone from CISAC to come on the show and talk about that. So if you have any pull over there, you might want to mention that, because that is a critical advance.
I do have someone I think that could very much speak to that, and I'd be happy to talk to them, and I will get with you, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for having me. And
Thanks
I
so
look
much.
forward to answering any questions anybody has. And I hope you'll use the tool and encourage the content creators to use the same tool.